This is the 2025 Ram 1500 Warlock, and it's not just a pickup truck with a silly name. It's a value-focused pickup truck. It starts life as a bare-bones base model tradesman, but is equipped with the stuff that actually matters. Things like a bigger engine, four-wheel drive, and a ton of other off-road goodies. And the best part is, it's cheaper because of that, starting at $54,000. And right now, as I'm making this video in May of 2025, you can find them even cheaper with incentives up to $7,000 off or more if you're a savvy negotiator, making this already value-friendly pickup truck an even better value. And today I'll show you everything the Warlock has to offer. So the first place I want to start is under the hood, because the Warlock gets an engine upgrade in the form of this, the new Hurricane motor, specifically the standard output version of the twin turbocharged 3-liter straight 6, good for 420 horsepower and 469 pound-feet of torque, which kind of sounds like a meme, the fact that they've rated it for 420, 469. But anyways, that engine is then paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and in standard normal drive modes, sends power to just the rear wheels, with the transfer case that comes standard on the Warlock for four-wheel drive, with high and low settings, and even a rear axle lock. Now this thing pulls like a freight train. Despite the fact that this truck weighs 5,700 pounds, we're talking 0 to 60 in 5 seconds flat, with a quarter-mile time of 14 seconds. That is insane. The Hurricane motor pulls way harder than the outgoing Hemi. I know a lot of people miss the Hemi motor, but this is a pretty significant upgrade, especially when you compare it to the standard V6 that comes in the base tradesman model. So if you were to get a regular tradesman in four-wheel drive, it would come with the basic V6, which doesn't make near the power that this does, while this truck still has a 1,900 pound payload capacity and 8,300 pound towing capacity, and is just straight up fast. I mean, 0 to 60 in 5 seconds for a truck, that's insane. Most of the performance trucks we think of cost way more than this does. The other cool part about this Hurricane motor is, assuming you can keep your foot out of it, you can actually get the same fuel economy as the V6, but while having more power on tap. So it features an EPA-rated 19 miles per gallon city, 24 miles per gallon highway, and 21 miles per gallon combined. And given that it has a 26-gallon fuel tank, you're talking about 546 miles of range, give or take. And I say that because I've been mostly on the take side as I drive this thing with a heavy foot. The engine bay itself, pretty easy to look at. They didn't go over the top with a lot of the engine covers, so I like to see that. So it's going to be a bit easier to work on yourself. You can even see a lot of the turbo tech down low there, and just a very simple layout that makes it easier to do your own maintenance, which I love to see on modern vehicles where a lot of stuff tends to get hidden. So next, let's take a closer look at the exterior of the Ram 1500 Warlock. The Warlock, if you didn't know, is only offered as a crew cab with the 5'7" bed, which I don't think is a bad thing. I would say that's the most desirable configuration of a pickup truck anyways. So if you're going to pick one just to reduce cost, this is the right choice. And it does have a pretty generic, cheap look to it, and there's good reason for that. As I mentioned earlier, the Warlock is essentially based on the Tradesman, which is the bare bones, cheapest Ram that money can buy. And so of course you have things like plastic here in the grille, plastic in the bumpers, and everywhere else that you see. The upside of that is that makes the truck cheaper to produce, therefore passing the savings on to the consumer for a cheaper pickup truck. And here's the other upside, or at least the way that I view it. If you're someone that likes to modify your vehicles anyway, like me, then odds are you're probably going to change out the bumpers. You're going to change out the wheels anyways. And so why spend the extra money getting more expensive bumpers, wheels, and tires when you can change all that yourself with the money you saved by buying the Warlock? The Warlock comes standard with the stuff that you actually care about, like four-wheel drive, the underpinnings, the skid plates that are on this. In fact, you have various skid plates spread throughout the vehicle. All that stuff would be much harder to add later, things like the axle lock. So why not start with this? It's a much better starting platform, let's say, to then further modify and enhance the vehicle. That being said, let's talk about some of the off-road enhancements that are not necessarily immediately visible unless you are quite savvy in your Ram knowledge. And that is the fact that the Warlock actually comes with a 1-inch lift. So that's an improvement over the standard 4x4 Tradesman, giving you a very respectable 10.1 inches of ground clearance, which is just awesome and will definitely help with the trails. Obviously, you can further enhance your approach and departure angles with your own aftermarket bumpers, but if you just want to use the truck and aren't going to do any hardcore off-roading, All of this is going to be just fine. If anything, some of these surfaces should be more durable to actually holding up to various rock trips and things like that that might happen while you're driving or on the trails. The next thing I actually want to show you is the wheel and tire package. This is supposed to be a little bit of an upgrade from the standard base models for these wheels. I personally, still not a huge fan, but they look okay, but you could definitely change those out. The more important part, I'd say, is the actual tire equipment. These Goodyear Wranglers are very aggressive, sidewall protection, and quite knobby here. Another upgrade that I want to talk about for the Ram is the fact that these actually get coil springs in the rear. And this is the Ram 1500 as a whole. They've been like this for a few years now, but this significantly improves the ride. Toyota and Ram were actually some of the first ones to go full coil spring for the suspension, which makes these way better trucks to drive. If it's going to be your daily, that's an important thing to consider. Now, there are some other generic things about this. Obviously, you lose out on luxuries like the cool fancy door, keyless entry, and all that stuff, but you do still get a regular fob, so that makes it pretty easy to use nonetheless. You get tinted windows here in the back. You still get the electronic sliding rear glass window, which is quite nice. And then this soft tonneau cover here in the back is actually an option, so you don't necessarily have to have that. You can get some optional different, let's say, performance-oriented shocks front and rear as part of some of the packages that are available. And of course, here in the back, you get a dual exhaust. You have your tailgate, your reverse backup camera. You don't get the fancy cameras everywhere else like other off-road models, just the backup camera. So you do make some sacrifices in that regard. Of course, things which can be rectified later, and a full-size spare in the rear. So pretty cool. If you thought the outside was generic, wait until you see the inside. Again, base model pickup truck. This is about as generic and base model as it gets. Now, to me, the biggest upside of that is that means you get cloth seats. I have long been a fan of cloth seats. I think they're by far the most comfortable seats that you can get, far beyond that of leather, pleather, or even vinyl. So I love to see that. The only downside is these seats can wear a bit faster, especially if you're somebody that always has a lot of tools in your pockets, things that can catch, scrape, or tear the seats, then that can kind of ruin them rather quickly. But other than that, I think these are by far the most comfortable seats you can have in a vehicle. Now, real quick, I want to show you the back. Again, Warlock is crew cab only, but that means you get all of this space back here, meaning you can seat up to 6 people in your Warlock, which is quite impressive, whether that be your crew, your family, or even with all those people in here, with all this real estate, you could also fit pets back here, which is awesome. Gear, equipment, whatever the case is, or even fold the seats away for storage. In the middle here, you do get cup holders, which is a nice feature. Pretty generic, but you still get rear vents for your passengers and even a little bit of a pocket cubby. So pretty generic, but it gets the job done. Moving back up to the front, let me show you these features, or lack thereof, I might say. But you still feature full things like power windows, power mirror adjustments, and if we go ahead and hop in and start it up, you still have a push start engine stop button, which is nice. And as it fires up, you can see that it is pretty generic in here. But I don't think that's a bad thing because it equips the truck with just the things you actually need. So while a lot of modern vehicles tend to have TV-sized displays, this one has a very modest 8.4-inch display that still has Apple CarPlay connectivity and smartphone integration, meaning you can still have your maps, play your own music, use it to the radio, whatever the case is, navigation. All of that's available here. It just takes a much more modest approach. You still have plenty of charging and storage, both here on the top, some USB chargers down low, and even another 400 watt over here on the side. So that is all very forward thinking and I think very feature friendly. You also have a nice little pop out pocket here that also has some key holders, which is very nicely stored away. Additionally, you also get air conditioning, which is a must, but standard here in the Warlock. You still get your nice parking sensors, whether you love or hate them, your tow and haul controls, traction control, and then here, I know this isn't everybody's favorite, but of course the rotary dial shifter for your 8-speed automatic transmission. You also get the electronically shifted transfer case, which the Warlock is standard in 2-wheel drive, but can easily be shifted to 4-wheel drive high or 4-wheel drive low. Below that, you also have your auto start stop, your hill assist, and even the axle lock, which is a pretty cool feature. You just push that button and the truck goes ahead and locks the rear axle. That'll help big time with off-roading to help make sure that you're sending all the power where necessary to move your vehicle up that hill. If you don't need it, no problem, but it comes here on the Warlock. You also get things like adaptive cruise control, the gear limits, basically everything you could ask for in a pickup truck with off-road capabilities comes here in the Warlock. You just don't get leather trimmed or large amenities, nothing crazy like heated or ventilated seats, really just the stuff you need. You still get things like cup holders and storage, the ability for having extra seats and even some little pockets down here. And so I think that's where the beauty of this truck comes from, is just the simplicity of it. I think this is perfect. If you want a workhorse truck that can also go off-roading, or you want a blank canvas platform to modify, you can find that here. The interior is wonderful, it's comfortable, and it has a lot of stuff to work with. And punch it. A little bit of wheel hop there. Okay, this is fast. This pulls way harder than the outgoing Hemi, which really shouldn't be much of a surprise, especially when you start comparing actual power figures in terms of horsepower and torque. And I mean, this isn't even the high output. This is just the standard output version of the new Hurricane Straight 6. I'm seriously impressed. And I mean, again, when we talk about value for the money, all of that type of stuff, that's where the Warlock really shines. And the powertrain is just awesome in this. Obviously, the standard tradesman comes with the V6, which is whatever. I'm sure some people are going to say it's just fine for getting around town. Personally, I'd rather have the extra power, especially if you're going to be towing or even going uphill. It's always nice to have that, especially in a heavier vehicle. And this thing has plenty of power. And being a current modern car with a turbocharged powertrain, a lot of manufacturers tend to leave some room on the table. So if you decided you wanted to throw a tune on this, I'm sure it would have a little bit more power as well. But I honestly think it's just fine as it is. Now let's talk about what it's like to drive the Warlock regularly. So we know that it's got a lot of power, but how does it handle on the road? I mean, you do have some different characteristics. Obviously, you have the fact that it's an inch taller, so you can expect a bit more body roll. There's definitely some of that here, but that's to be expected in a truck. The actual ride over bumps and things is quite good. I mean, Ram and Toyota, for that matter, were actually some of the first folks to actually put in, coil springs in the rear rather than leaf springs, and that obviously greatly improves ride, and you'll find a pretty nice ride here for a full-size pickup truck in the Warlock. So I think that just speaks volumes about the performance that you get, and this one in particular, with of course some of the other options that are on this, of course, come with the performance tune dampers, so it's even better in that sense. And there's a lot of value to be said in that package as well, not just the regular Warlock package, but some of the options can really make a big difference in terms of your overall experience with this truck. I will say this, the Hurricane doesn't have the same oomph, the growl that the Hemi had, and so it's not as satisfying to accelerate and hear the noise. It's really more so just how quickly this truck accelerates. I mean, 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds sounds insane for a truck. I mean, when we think about high performance trucks, we think about the ones that are closer to 6 figures. We think about Raptors, the RHO. We think about the TRX, the Raptor R. This thing is really, really fast. Again, especially for the money. It's not going to beat those trucks, but I mean, shoot, if you want to have fun off-road or you just want a decently quick truck, I'm impressed here. The visibility is pretty good. Obviously, if you're familiar with these Rams, these have been really good. Ram's been building a really nice truck for a while now. I will say this, the cloth interior, even the cheaper interior here, is just so much more comfortable to me for a driving perspective. The trucks I've owned, had cloth seats in them. I think it's more comfortable for road trips. It doesn't get as hot if you live out here in Phoenix, and so there's a lot of good reasons to have something like this. Getting onto the freeway here. Got to goose it a bit. It's pretty quiet too. So now that we're getting onto the freeway here, we're now going freeway speeds, and obviously you can tell it's really quiet in here. So wind noise is also great in this vehicle. I'm quite impressed. What you've got here is an incredibly solid offering, not just as a regular truck. Obviously, a lot of these things would apply to the other Rams if you wanted to use those as well, but the fact that this is just a really, really solid built truck all around. And this package in particular gives you all of the stuff you could ask for if you like the rugged off-road look of the Rebel. this is it. It almost makes you wonder why you would even buy those other models unless you were really looking for very specific features. This is the type of thing that I think we all talk about wanting, a bare bones truck with just the essentials, and this is it in the Ram Warlock. And now, as of right now, at the time of making this video, you can find these with a discount at dealers, making it an even better value than what it's supposed to be on paper. So I think the real information is, if this is in your budget, if this is what you're looking for, I can't think of a reason not to buy this truck. I mean, this thing is awesome. Obviously, you know, you can be a little bit skeptical about the new Hurricane power plant, how reliable it is, etc., but everything else, I'm sold on the Ram Warlock. So let me know what you think down below. That's the end of the video. If you could leave me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. Consider getting subscribed for more content like this in the future. And of course, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.